Hello Moodlings, my name is Dr. Nicole Lunan and I'm the CEO and co-founder of MoodMe, a new app that allows you to share over 400 plus moods, emotions, and desires with your lover, thus making communication simple, fun, and super easy. Let's talk about a toxic trait that has the ability to tear apart relationships of all kinds. Let's talk about the victim mentality. The victim mentality is a personality trait where a person considers themselves a victim of a negative action or negative actions of others. They don't own that they have any part in the conflict at hand, and they deem themselves as an angel or completely unaware of what was happening at the time. They do not take the blame at all. The finger is pointed at the person they believe to be the attacker or the aggressor. When we have a victim mentality, we tend to demonize the aggressor and think of them as like a bad person or that they did the worst thing ever that ruined our lives. We place ourselves in helpless child mode and we don't own our power. Children who grew up with parents who suffer from addiction, mental illness, abuse, neglect often use the victim mentality as a way to cope with the abuse themselves. If you think about a child who was repeatedly hit or talked down to, it wouldn't be that far of a jump to imagine an adult that immediately drops into helpless child mode and victim mode in conflict. It's possible that they never came out of that helpless child mode, and their go-to instinct is to drop into that and immediately give their power away. I think it's interesting because with being a victim, you are actually giving your power away because you're pretty much putting all of the responsibility for your happiness and your well-being onto another person. But in a weird way, I think that victims also think that by not apologizing and by not admitting fault and wrong, that they're actually keeping their power. But really it's the opposite. They're actually giving their power away and putting themselves in helpless child mode and the other person in a dominant role. With the victim mentality, it's hard to get rid of negative energy because we're pointing the fingers squarely at the other person and avoiding looking at ourselves on how we contributed. Of course, this excludes situations where we were actual victims of things that were out of our control, like robbery, an accident, or things that happened when we were young children. Either way, we cannot allow ourselves to get stuck in the why me role. We have to find a way to come back to balance and discover peace and forgiveness within to reclaim our power that we gave away. Something that's helped me out of the why me role is looking at everything in life like a lesson or a curriculum. Most of what happens to us, whether deemed good or bad, is done to provoke healing. If you can find a way to scope out and look at your life on a broader scale, you might find that some of your toughest situations and challenges are what have catapulted you forwards the most and made you who you are today. If you take a pessimistic view of what happened to you and choose to look at it or the person who harmed you as an evil bully who has all the power over you, of course you're gonna feel dismembered, hopeless, angry, and enraged. There's no going back to change what's happened in the past. The only way is forward. We cannot dwell or ruminate on why this person has harmed us, how much they hurt us, and poor us, why me, my life is so terrible. Sitting in a room alone feeling sorry for yourself on repeat isn't gonna get you moving forward towards a happier life. We have to be honest with ourselves and ask some tough questions. In what way did you contribute to the conflict at hand? Let's say, for example, we have an empath in a relationship with a narcissist. We cannot fully blame the narcissist for the abuse that's being done to the empath. The empath has weak boundaries and their toxic trait would be people-pleasing. It's an easy way to think that the narcissist is the bad one, the evil one, and of course they have the ability to manipulate, but the empath has to work on their self-worth and not using what they give to others as a persuasion technique to obtain love. Victimhood exists often when it comes to betrayal in relationships. It's an easy way out to blame the person who betrayed the other because they cheated, they lied. A more complex and uncomfortable way to look at a betrayal as the person who has been betrayed is to ask how they played into it. Did they ignore their partner's request for intimacy? Were they working too much? Did they ignore the signs of the relationship failing? Or maybe they didn't listen to their intuition and refused to acknowledge the red flags starting at the beginning of the relationship. I think it's an instinct after we feel that we've been betrayed is to just put all the weight of what happened on the other person, on the person who betrayed and hurt us. But that is a cheap way out. In order to really gain that perspective, you have to be willing to look at yourself. And you got to remember that it takes two people to tango. There's two people in a relationship. So whether you think that you're contributing to the conflict or not, if you're in a relationship with another person, the push and pull dynamics, you definitely are. We are not victims to the circumstances that we voluntarily participate in. We live in an abundant world full of choices, billions of people, opportunities. If you find yourself in a situation where you're playing the victim and you feel helpless, remember that you are choosing the situation. You can walk away at any point in time or get creative and find another way to protect your peace. You may come to the realization that you don't want to leave this negative situation. And that's where you get really deep and you get the meat of your shadow work. In some form or fashion, that negative situation is actually serving you and you're choosing it. So why complain? Instead of complaining, why not ask yourself what part of you, what part of your pain is choosing to learn from this negative situation at this specific time? Those in a victim mindset have self-pity, self-sabotage, and a negative outlook on life. They have learned to complain about their life rather than take action steps to change the situation that they're in. If you find yourself complaining a lot about a certain situation, you may be in a victim mindset. Those with a victim mindset dwell on the negative. Many things can be going well in their life, but they choose to place their energy on the one thing that's not going well, and this pulls their energy down into a lower vibration. I actually think the victim mindset as a self-sabotaging technique, it's like a ceiling to your happiness. It's like as soon as you get really happy, your victim mindset finds and narrows in a situation where you can take personally and get upset about, and that actually lowers your entire vibration and it stops you from actually reaching that optimal heights of happiness. It's not fun to take responsibility for our actions. No, it's actually quite challenging, especially if you grew up in a household where words like, "I'm sorry," were not said. I've seen those in older generations literally not talk to each other for decades and tear apart really beautiful family relationships and friendships just because nobody wants to apologize and own responsibility. It's sad and it's exhausting. Being in a relationship with a lover who refuses to apologize and consistently points blame at the other person is draining and it's frustrating. So let's take a look at some signs that you are dating someone, or maybe you are someone who is trapped in a victim mentality. Sign number 1, those with a victim mentality tend to talk about people in the past as if they were awful, crazy, evil, bad. Is it possible that all of their exes and friends ended up being the villain of the story, or are they failing to mention the things that they did wrong in the relationship? The way we talk about past people that were important to us at one time is telling about how we view the world and how we view the future as well. If everyone in their past is horrific and there's not a balanced view or nuggets of lessons learned, then it's possible that you or the person you're inquiring about could be trapped in a victim mindset. So yeah, if you go on a date with somebody and they're bashing their ex, or you find out that all of their exes were quote unquote crazy or abusive, which they most likely could be, but come on now. There's always a balance to each story. If they don't talk about some of the things that they did wrong and they're really putting down their exes, you can kind of imagine how if they broke up with you, how then they would talk about you. It wouldn't be that far off track. Sign number 2, those trapped in a victim mentality rarely talk about what they did wrong in conflicts. I know at the beginning when we're triggered, so it's not easy to look in the mirror and ask, how did I contribute to this? But after we calm down, take some time to process, after the conflicts happen, there should be some thought, pause, and acknowledgement about how we contribute to the conflict as well. Sign number 3, those trapped in a victim mentality are stuck in the past rather than taking those lessons and improving on themselves and moving forward. Instead of using an obstacle to improve, they'll most likely make sweeping judgments like, I can't trust people, or getting close to people is a waste of time. They'll look on the past as a reason to fall further and further into negativity rather than reframing and using it as a lesson to get better. Sign number 4, those trapped in a victim mentality take most things personally. In a way, they think the world revolves around them. The world would have to revolve around them because they think that everyone's out to get them. For example, if someone cuts them off on the road, it's because that person did it purposely to hurt them specifically. Or they didn't get a job because the person interviewing them specifically didn't like them for this and this reason. If someone makes an insensitive comment, it's because that person was trying to hurt the victim specifically. Most people aren't thinking about you. They're not at home trying to plot a way to screw you over or ruin your day. Most people are thinking about themselves. Whatever they do or say doesn't have to be taken so personally because they're probably caught up in their own story, their own world, and you're simply a character in it. I'm not saying that there aren't predators out there, because there definitely are, but most people are pretty much focused on their own life, their own pain, their own drama. It's better to lean into not taking everything so personally and just giving other people the benefit of doubt. So for those who are stuck in a victim mentality, sometimes I hear them saying that they're super mad at this other person, there's a conflict that happened, and they're holding on to this grudge, and they bet more than anything that the other person is just as angry as they are. But that's just simply not the case for everybody. The other person could have moved on with their life, found happiness in a different way, forgiven themselves, while the person who is still holding the grudge is just stuck in time, and that energy is just festering and rotting. Sign number 6. Those with the victim mentality are drama heavy. There's a lot of drama that follows them wherever they go, and they tend to make a big deal about little things or things that weren't meant to harm them at all, like simple miscommunications. They also don't know how to apologize, so they'll demonize the other person and then just not apologize for their behavior at all, which you could see how that would like tip the drama scale. Sign number 7. Those with the victim mentality tend to just cut people out of their lives rather than work on the issue. Why? In order to work on a conflict, the victim would have to step out of victim mode and actually accept some sort of responsibility, which is extremely hard for them. If you struggle with a victim mentality, learning how to apologize is going to be tough for you, because you probably don't think that you did anything wrong. But here's the thing. Even if you feel like you didn't do anything wrong, if the actions that you did hurt another person, even if you can't see it, you don't understand it, you still hurt another person. That's just the gist of it. So you can always apologize, say, I am sorry that I hurt you. I don't understand exactly how I hurt you, but I am sorry at the simple fact that I did hurt you. I feel like people with victim mentality are really good at justifying their behavior. I did this because you did this. I did this because you did this. It's like, it's not a tennis match or ping pong tournament. Just think about what you did and how you could have done better, and own your actions and simply say, I am sorry. If you find yourself angry, irritable, resentful, depressed, you have to ask yourself, are you playing the victim in certain scenarios in your life? Then ask yourself how you contributed to this conflict or situation. And then ask yourself, how does this conflict help you? How did it help you become the person that you are today? Stop giving your power away to another person who probably isn't really thinking about you. Reclaim your power back. The easiest way to do this is to start by owning your part. I know your ego doesn't want you to do this, but you've got to lead with your mature, higher self. Write the issue down on a piece of paper. Write down what they did in one column, and then on the other column, write down how you may have contributed to the conflict as well. Find a balance. This is one of the only ways to truly free yourself. If you find yourself in a relationship with a person who is suffering from a victim mentality, awareness is everything. If they can first admit that they have this issue, then that's a big deal. Most likely, you're gonna have to show a lot of patience in the meantime until they can learn how to break that habit and increase their awareness. They can also begin doing shadow work, coaching, and it's really helpful to get a therapist to help break this victim habit and help set themselves straight. After coaching clients, I've coached over 5,000 clients. The one thing that has in common with people who are really suffering in their life and not really able to enjoy their life is there's a certain situation in their life that they are playing victim to. Whether it was with their parents or with their coworkers or with past relationships, they haven't yet broken out of that victim mentality, and that victim mentality is dragging them down and stopping them from being able to have opportunities in the future, stopping them from being able to experience joy in their life. And I don't think they know that they can just reclaim their power back. Take their power back and just let it go, especially in situations where it's like present day. Obviously with children, when you were a helpless child, it's a little bit different. You have to go back and forgive yourself and find forgiveness with your parents. But in present day, if there's a conflict at hand, and if you were there and voluntarily participating in it, you can reclaim your power back just by acknowledging how you contributed to the conflict. And then just saying, I'm sorry, say it out loud, talk with the person, have emotional maturity, and then let it go, because life is too short to be stuck in these grudges. All right, that's our video for today. Thank you for watching. And if you like our video, please subscribe, share, and like, and download Mood Me.